Hello and welcome to OverVolted. Today we have Jim joining us.
All right, guys.
And we have Matthew.
Hey.
We're going to cover some of the more latest news this week. It's been kind of a slow week, but we still managed to find some good stuff out there. We have a few articles from our website, catching up on some things we missed from this last podcast because we did a live stream instead. So be sure to check out the website YouTube channel to check that out. And we're going to talk about some of the more leaky stuff today. Leaks are leaks, so take with a grain of salt. But let's go ahead and get started on Matthew's article about Big Navi real quick.
So Rogame, you might know him, and he's a very good leaker, new but very good. And he had a big leak for Big Navi, which is where he got all like the die names, which is basically going to tell us a lot about segmentation and how many GPUs they're going to release. So Navi 21 is supposed to be the biggest one. And that's supposedly 80 compute units, 505 square millimeter die size. And they have 4 variants. They have the XTX, the XT, the XL, and the XE. And Rogame, I don't know if this is speculation or if this is this is just what you can tell from the die sizes. Not that I disagree with what he's saying, but he has like this comments thing where he says, similar to a GPU that we have in the current Navi lineup. And what he's saying is that the top-end Navi XTX is going to be like the 5700 XT, which is just like a different clock speed bin for the 5700 XT. Sorry, a 5700 XT Anniversary Edition, which was a launch thing. I don't know if you can buy that anymore.
But wait a minute. Wait.
What?
Matthew, isn't Navi 20... Navi 21's Big Navi, yeah?
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
We think so. The 505 square millimeter.
I kind of consider all these to be Big Navi because they're very fast.
You're right.
Anyways, and then we have the regular XT, which is going to be like your high-end flagship that's not a special bin. And then the XL, which would be slightly cut down. And then the XE, which would be a little bit more cut down than that. So it would probably look something like our 5700 XT, 5700, and 5600 XT.
Right, we have, so basically, I would agree that this is looking pretty likely. However, kind of weird, I reckon, for them to go ahead and do a sort of special edition.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have thought if they were going to do this, they would have made an HBM version for the very top. However,
I don't know about that.
This must be coming from the same. It says it's the same ID, so it must be the same die, really, I guess.
Yeah. I would say that if the difference between XTX and XT probably isn't that significant. So I agree with Rogame that it's probably just a higher clock speed bin.
Yeah, it'll be the best bin that they can find on the wafer. Right.
So and then we have Pro versions, only XT and XL. And then we have Apple exclusive versions because they have A in the code name. It's all still Navi 21. And finally, Rogame is saying that there's going to be a Navi 10 refresh that's going to slot in down in the lower part of the stack. I don't know. When he says replacement, I could probably ask him this later. But when he says replacement, I don't know what he means like just a literal replacement as in it's the same GPU, or if he means like performance or price segment replacement.
I would assume that it's a performance or price segment replacement. I don't see them just dropping in a new GPU right underneath an existing product number. That tends to get people in trouble.
But the thing is, it's like, are we really going to see another $400 5700 XT? Surely not. So maybe this will be like...
It might be like a 5750 or something like that.
Well, it's going to be 20% faster probably, yeah? So...
Well, it's only a refresh. It can't be that much faster.
I mean, didn't we see some chart talking about the different model numbering that AMD was looking at, and where the 50 would represent a microarchitecture update or something?
That was a long time ago. I think AMD pretty much dropped that.
They probably just weren't releasing enough sub-architecture changes to merit needing it.
That basically changed when the 500 series launched, because that should have been like the 485 and not the 580.
You're getting 4, well, these look like the desktop versions. The top one, the Navi 21 XTX,
Yeah.
XL, and XC. I mean, getting 4 out of 1 die, that's quite a lot of segmentation, actually.
Well,
I
that's
mean,
the same for Navi 10.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I mean, I guess because it's the anniversary one, they do have that. How many? I mean, have you heard of anyone who actually owns a 5700 XT anniversary edition?
No.
I don't know anybody that ever got one of those, to be honest with you.
I know
It's
some
almost
people
like
with the anniversary edition Ryzen CPU.
Yeah, that's that one as well. So yeah, I mean, it looks a bit weird to have 4 like SKUs from the same chip and another couple, and even more going to Apple, obviously. But yeah, I wonder how that's going to work out.
It's just going to be the
lot.
top binned chip, one that can possibly overclock a little better. Who knows?
I mean, Rogame said also that he believed it was 80 compute units and has a 505, but he didn't have any extra information on that. This was just a personal belief, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think
Right.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the die, there might be more compute units, but I think we all generally think that it'll end up with 80, no matter even if there's more compute units on the die.
Yeah, probably will do.
And that's about it for this.
Yeah, there's not a great deal more to be said about this one. It's we're waiting and see basically what we get.
It's a leak.
out of
It just ties
That's
a few
interesting.
things together.
All right, so then we have this is funny because Biostar accidentally leaked this, and this is like one of these cool moments where we have one leak, and then we have another leak, and they like complete each other. But I don't think Biostar was intending for this to happen. So
A leak marriage made in Biostar.
Yeah. So we had Igor's lab leaked a bunch of Renoir SKUs, not the SKUs, but like the OPN numbers. So we had the specs for OPN numbers, which, as you know, that's what they replaced. That's what they did with Ryzen 3000. If you remember, like there were a lot of really weird leaks where like the CPU ID looked really weird, and that's what they've replaced the IDs with. So instead of like the engineering samples where you had like all this really nice information, they don't have that anymore. But Igor's lab was able to get a hold of all of the Renoir engine, like not literally all of the ones AMD's ever made, including engineering samples. So he got like 20 Renoir based CPUs for desktop, and he knew some of them were going to be like the final products, but he didn't know what ones they were going to be. And then Biostar leaked a bunch of Renoir SKUs, not all of them, but almost all of them, and they happen to have the OPM number attached to them. Actually, have they even taken this down? I bet they have at this point. It's been like a week.
They should have done by now, yeah.
Sure. Yes, it's taken down, but we have the evidence. We have the.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure if we go into Wayback Machine, then we'll be able to find that quite easily.
Anyway, so we have.
I actually read Igor's article on this, and I disagreed with one thing that he said about it entirely. In fact, about
what
he talked about how the press wants to be careful when like outing these leaks and stuff like that, and they understand that these companies really dislike it when like you're outing their leak or you're outing their hardware in leaks and stuff like that. And I just disagreed entirely with what he wrote, because I believe firmly that it is a job of the tech press to tell people about these things. I mean, okay, maybe it does take away a bit of the the interest, or you get that boost of interest when you leak something, and then people sort of like it does take the edge off the final release, obviously, which is not a great thing. But I mean, it's our job. It's our job to look after our viewers first of all, and our listeners, and our readers. It's not our job to to protect these companies' secrets if they are unable to do it themselves, and especially when their partners are being idiots like Biostar. I've got nothing against Biostar; they're a great little company, and I kind of root for the smaller guys. But if they're going to do this, then they shouldn't be doing this. Put it that way.
Like two things: if they're going to leak, then we're just going to report on it. If you can't ask us to not leak.
Exactly.
And B, someone else is going to report on it. Someone's going to report on it. So we might as well.
Somebody is going to do it. Exactly. That is exactly yeah.
But I just love this leak because it matches so perfectly with Igor's Labs leak. It's just such a perfect timing. So we have the exact specs for all of the Renoir CPUs except for the regular 4200G and 4400G. But I'm pretty sure the 4200G and 4400G will have the same specs as the Pro variant because the 4700. Yeah.
Sorry,
What?
Matthew, there's another leak with this. Apparently, the graphics were faster than the 4800H, was it, or the 4900Hs, even though it only had like the 6 compute units. So one of these lower end ones ended up faster than the mobile.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, I saw that someplace on the Reddit, and there was one of the AMD guys, John Bridgman, commented on it. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, the fact that he was commenting on it just because he works at AMD, but it was him that pointed out that, yeah, this is actually faster than the mobile version now, because the clocks must be because the clock speeds can hold it a lot better or something.
Well, you're not running off of battery power. You actually have wall outlet to power these things, so you can take the clock up higher. You can put a better cooling system in it, so you can actually go up in wattage too.
I mean, based on price, these could be absolutely amazing if the price is right. But we'll wait and see on that, I guess.
For reference, the 4900HS has 8 compute units, and its max clock speed is 1750 megahertz.
Yeah.
So like
must
the
be struggling to hold it. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I don't know about that, but anyways, the 4200G has 2 less compute units and apparently 50 megahertz less, but you can overclock it. So the clock speeds are interesting. We don't have boost; we only have base. Except, well, for GPU, it's a little bit tricky. We don't know how that's going to work in respect to like boost and base, but the 4200G is going to clock the highest. It drops 100 megahertz to the 4400G and another 100 to the 4700G. And then, but the clock speeds like on the 4700G are crazy. 2.1
gigahertz. Yeah. I mean, that is unbelievable.
I don't even know if the best like Picassos could get like 2 gigahertz.
Yeah.
Like this is super fast. It's ridiculous. Now they are at a 3 compute unit disadvantage compared to like the 3400G, but the clock speeds are just so much higher. And
well, Renoir mobile already destroys like the previous one anyway.
Yeah, but that's because like of a power limitation.
Yeah, true.
So it's a lot easier for Renoir to catch up when it's power constrained.
Well, and it does give some credence to the whole Xbox and PlayStation stuff too, because those GPUs are running in the 2.23 gigahertz range, right?
Yeah.
And so if they can get non-RDNA 2 running at that speed, 2.1 gigahertz, who's to say that RDNA 2 can't run at 2.23?
The thing is, this is still Vega graphics.
Yeah, that is true.
Oh yeah, this is even way back. Yeah, so Vega can do it.
So yeah, we already have the SKU names, which is pretty funny. And then we have another AMD leak. This has just been like a week of AMD leaks.
Yeah.
Which normally does not happen. But we have our Matisse 2/Matisse refresh specs and names. The names leaked, I think, a while ago, but we didn't really talk about it because it wasn't that much. But we have 39.
Thing, you mean?
Yeah.
XT branding. Yeah.
God, I hate it so much, but it has to be right.
I don't mind it. I actually don't mind this at all. I don't really understand the hate it's getting. And it makes sense in a way, because you couldn't just add more numbers here, right? Because you know what happened? 39, in the 3900s and onwards, they've filled all of those spaces. You've got your 3920X, your 3950X, your 60, 70, 80. There's no more numbers in the 3900s.
I would say you could do the 20. But the thing is, or instead of XT, they should have done XR.
What did they do? What did they do for the replacement of the, by the way, still unheard of and unseen 3950X? Notice in all of this, they're only talking about the 3900 XT and the 3800 XT.
I think.
Where's the 16-core chip? Is that not being refreshed?
No, I don't think so. I think
it is being refreshed, Matthew.
That's
I just
true.
think we haven't heard about it. But,
yeah, it's possible, but I think the argument for not refreshing the 3950X is that it's such a high bin anyways. Like
it was pretty impressive at launch. Yeah. I mean, we were all expecting it to be, 3900 kind of quality, and it ended up being better.
Yeah, it ended up being a lot better, and it's such low volume anyways, and it's so far ahead of anything Intel has. Is there really a point in refreshing the 16-core? I don't think there is.
Maybe not. I guess not. I guess we'll see.
Also, if Zen 3 is a very staggered launch, they might only launch like the 16-core version first or something like that. So who knows? Who knows what AMD's planning? But we have like some clock speed claims apparently. The base clock speed might be up according to Chip Hell for both the 3800 XT and 3900 XT.
Well, this is where this got interesting because both Rogame and AppySac have found evidence of only 100 extra megahertz on the base clock and the boost clock, which to me is barely even worth, this isn't even worth a new XT brand at 100 megahertz each. However, on Chip Hell, a couple of weeks ago? Last week on Chip Hell, apparently some big overclocker said it was 4.1 gigahertz base for the 3900 XT and 4.2 gigahertz base for the 3800 XT. The boost is only up again by 100 on each. But to me, this 4.2, 4.1, that is worthy of a refresh. 100 megahertz extra. That's like an Intel refresh. I wouldn't even bother with that. I don't really know why they are bothering with it if this is what it ends up.
Well, the huge base clock gain is more reminiscent of what Intel did with their i9s, where they just cranked that base clock all the way up.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, and so being a throwback to that.
Along with the power, yeah.
Well, yeah, once you start running more power than it takes to power your fridge, I mean...
Yeah. But to me, that's what this is all about here would be, which one of these is true. I mean, I would hate to go against Rogame and AppySac because they've obviously got great records. I just hope that this is true. And 4.1, 4.2 gigahertz, those are two pretty nice looking CPUs, if that is the case, and worthy of this XT brand, which again, I've said a lot about AMD branding, like this FreeSync Premium Pro crap and all that. Some of the branding is absolute garbage, but I actually like this. And remember last year, they did talk about how they wanted to tie in their GPU and CPU branding together so that it makes a bit more sense to a GPU or a CPU buyer. And this is one simple way of doing this. They've added a T to the end of it, and yeah, I actually quite like this. I just hope that it's worthy of more than 100 megahertz on each.
I think if the base clock claim from Chip Hell is true, then it will hold its boost a lot better because the 3800X drops to like 4 to 4.2 gigahertz in like a very heavy workload. I think at Prime 95 it'll drop to 4.
Well, that I have maintained from the beginning that chips like the 3800X were absolute garbage basement tier silicon. Yeah,
probably. That's probably
and
true.
So this would make a lot more sense to me if by this point the silicon has either improved or it might even be at the tweaked node. I mean, there's all this thing. Are we still on N7 or is this going to be N7P? Is this going to be the tweaked node? Because if so, then they really ought to be getting more than 100 megahertz out of it as well.
It depends on whether or not AMD might be like, okay, people don't like us saying this is the boost it gets and it hits it for like 100 milliseconds or so. How about we bump up the base clock, which as in the baseline, as in it won't go below this, and we say the boost is a little bit higher, but the performance ends up actually being a lot better than the boost would lead you to believe.
Well, it should be because the base clock, this is going to be a much larger increase in performance than 100 megahertz on the boost clock, even in like every other game. I mean, for some reason, people do still think it's all about single-threaded in games. But I guarantee you that if this is 4.2 gigahertz base on the 3800 XT, and this is now going to be propelled up to being a really, really fast gaming chip, I believe.
I don't know. I mean, it depends on whether or not it scales well with clock speed. Obviously, Zen 2's not really focused on high clock speed, so it can run into other bottlenecks.
It'll be interesting to see, and I guess we'll find out more about this soon because we are getting to we're almost in June now. We'll be in June by the time you watch this.
Yeah.
And it was middle of July when we think that the launch is going to be.
Yeah. Okay, so DG1 time?
Yep.
So more leaks. We got DG1 again. So this, I know a lot of people will probably be bored by this because DG1 isn't that interesting, but it's kind of fun to see a train crash. Anyways.
Y'all
so we
have to
have
stop
a train
and
crash in
right?
slow motion, I would call it.
So we have DG1 graphics performance. It gets 5960 points in Firestrike, just normal Firestrike, and apparently that's about the same as a 750 Ti, a little bit lower than the RX 460, according to
still
some
my
results.
giddy harps. I mean, this is just wait a minute. That was a mixed metaphor there, wasn't it? Yeah, GTX 750 Ti performance. It's got to be better than this at the end, obviously. Well, we hope.
Well,
Or will it?
the thing is, and I forgot about this when I saw this leak, is that the DG1 Silicon, since it's based on GLP, it's limited to, it can go at the very, very most, 50 watts. It cannot go above that. And this could probably be even running at like 35 or 40. So
the 750 Ti is a 2013 GPU based on the 28 nanometer process.
I
mean, don't get me wrong. When it came out, it was like, holy crap, that is efficient as hell.
Yep.
And it was more efficient than AMD's like 14 nanometer stuff in a lot of ways. But I cannot muster any enthusiasm for this at all. I just can't. And the thing is, we've talked about this before, but Tiger Lake looks so nice, and yet they've got this as well. I don't understand.
Well, it doesn't scale. It doesn't scale with power. That's why.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, no cause for concern is what TechRadar is saying, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I would. They did also say that AMD and NVIDIA won't be getting any sleepless nights over this either.
I don't think AMD will. Like, Renoir is just so much better. And the Tiger Lakes leaks we've had before this put like the Tiger Lake iGPU, which is the same as the DG1 GPU, like 30% faster than Renoir. And it's like, who cares? It's 30% faster, and you're giving up like half the cores, really good cores at that. And maybe it's not as power efficient. Who knows? And it's just like, why would you get Tiger Lake over Renoir?
According to this, it is actually 10% ahead of the 750 Ti, which, you know, obviously is still nothing to write home about, but still.
But it's the 750 Ti. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though on the other hand, apparently DG1 is only developer only, which we've heard. We heard that before CES, and then we heard that basically confirmed at CES. I mean, it might end up becoming like a more consumer-oriented card, but will it really matter? Probably not.
But here's the thing, right? Developer only. Do you want this as a developer? Do you care? Is this just yet another GPU that you have to code specifically for? Or, I mean, do you see developers clamoring to get their hands on DG1?
Well,
I've never seen it.
Intel has to convince them that DG2 is going to be so much better.
Yeah, and you're not going to go and blow a lot of money making a huge GPU on something that's going to be a developer-only thing anyway.
But on the flip side, DG2 is HP. So is the coding you're doing for LP applicable to HP? And if so, how applicable is it? So
yeah, I don't know if, I just wonder if developers even care, to be honest. It's like yet more work for them on top of what they've got. On the other hand, obviously,
well,
Intel still holds the majority market share by far, remember, in graphics.
Yeah.
Still 70% plus.
Here's the thing. Which developers do you think they're referring to? They're not talking end game developers. They're probably talking engine developers. So the people behind DirectX, Vulkan, any of your other open engines out there that you could pick up on, like the CryEngine or any of those kinds of things.
Possibly, I guess. Yeah.
So that would definitely limit the scope that it would impact, and they could just put in optimizations into their engines or APIs to be able to handle this card, so that when DG2 does come out, it might actually not flop.
The problem I have here, the thing is, Kirk, there's only so much you can, put lipstick on a pig, yeah? And if it's bad at the hardware level, as I strongly suspect that this is, then they're going to be making big changes with each new iteration anyway. So you end up developing for something which ends up maybe, not even being used that much anyway. I'm not convinced. It sounds like it's something that they created this really, really bad GPU, and now they need to make an excuse for getting it out there.
Yeah, and I'm wondering why they couldn't just use the iGPU that's in any of the CPUs anyway.
Lake.
Yeah, it's
Tiger
like,
Lake.
Why didn't they just use that as the developer version and let
Which is
them
probably
write against
what
those
they
drivers?
will end up doing. This is what they will end up doing. They're not that stupid that they can't look at Tiger Lake and say, this is better than what we have here in like DG1.
Well,
So
it's the
why
same
would-
graphics. It's the exact same.
How can it be the same though when it's so much better than Tiger Lake at such lower power?
Because it scales better, Jim. When we're getting up to like the DG1 like discrete levels of power consumption, it just doesn't scale anymore. Like it doesn't. When Raja Kaduri talked, I think it was like the architecture day in 2019, he said like it scales up to 35 and it could theoretically go up to 50, but there's really no point.
Right.
So I mean, like Tiger Lake, the entire package, CPU and GPU cores combined, is up to 28 watts.
So I guess the reason for that is the thing that we talked about during one of our leaks, where, if you remember, it was said to be the worst of all worlds. XE was like the worst of all worlds because it started out with a streaming GPU, and then they added a bunch of fixed function stuff. So that would certainly explain why it's so bad in this discrete format, whereas the actual graphics cores themselves still seem fairly decent, at least in Tiger Lake, when it's not saddled with all the extra baggage that the XE brings. So that could well be it.
I have to wonder how similar LP and HP are, because HP seems like the GPU that they added the stuff onto, and LP seems like an actual successor to Ice Lake. Like where you can see like there's a pretty consistent improvement and increase in execution units, and then HP looks like something totally different. So it makes me think that all that what our leaker was talking about was HP and not really LP, unless I'm getting that wrong. Because LP seems pretty like they wouldn't make a streaming GPU that small, right? Does it really have the streaming technology in there?
Depending on whether or not. Well, it depends on the market, really, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I just don't see why this would be using the streaming GPU IP. I feel like Raja Kaduri like sort of like Frankenstein together what they were doing with Gen and what they were doing with the streaming GPU.
All right, but moving on to Lisa Su, the first woman to become the world's highest paid CEO, according to an Associated Press survey. And last year, Lisa was paid $58.5 million, apparently. Now, the first thing to point out is that the vast majority of this wasn't like cash payment. Yeah, maybe you want to talk a bit more about that, Kirk, as you possibly been following it a bit closer.
Well, she got paid the base salary of $1 million. You got your performance-tied bonuses of $1.2 million and $3 million in stock options and $53 million in stock awards.
Yeah,
and that's the thing with a lot of these high-end VPs and execs is their salary
performance related.
Yeah, they're performance related for sure, because obviously their decisions drive the company either for good or for worse. But they also get compensated quite heavily, not in salary that shows up on taxes and whatnot, but stock options.
Yeah.
And so their tax liability is significantly lower. You hear about these 1%ers that don't pay anything in taxes kind of thing. Well, partly how they do that is through stocks.
Yeah.
All of their net worth is really tied to stocks, and they live and die by that. And once they exercise those stock options, they don't have a tax liability until they actually cash those out. And if, at least in the United States, if you have stocks for more than a year, they're considered a long-term capital gain and gets taxed at a flat rate rather than an income rate.
Yeah.
And so they really like to be paid in stock options.
How much is capital gains tax in the USA?
10% last I checked.
10% only?
Yes.
Christ almighty. Right.
And so a lot of these super rich people only pull out long-term capital gains when they need money. And then they dump everything they can. And then, of course, they basically gift away a lot of their actual tax liability so that it lowers their tax liability. And so they're paying.
And so she was paid $13 million more than the highest paid male CEO in the survey, which was David Zaslav of Discovery. And it was more than double the next two highest paid women CEOs as well. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a massive amount of compensation that she's got. The question is, has it been worth it? Has she been worth this? I mean, don't get me wrong. Yeah, Lisa Su's been absolutely great for AMD, without a doubt. But the kind of money we're talking about here, last year, AMD had a net income of $341 million. And Lisa that's almost, a sixth of that. And
well, you got to step it back, though. She likely was given X shares of stock in her contract. The fact that the company has gained in value significantly since that contract was written,
of course,
is why she's getting paid such ludicrous amounts.
Yeah.
So when they were back at $20 a share, $30 a share, they're like, okay, this would be a fair amount of options, right? Yeah. And now that the stock is worth what, $53.50 today,
something like that,
then that's almost double.
Yeah, you can't argue
what they
with it
could have
from
potentially
that,
written.
From that perspective, it's difficult to argue that she's not worth it, because obviously to the company, or it has been worth it to them. It's just a huge amount of money. And I wonder what else, like guys like Mark Papermaster, Forrest Norrod, they must be on a few. I mean, they're getting pretty high bonuses as well, I would assume too.
Yeah, I'm sure it has something to do with the longevity at the company, the decision-making responsibilities, all of that stuff combined. And of course, how long their contract was, or what their agreements were with how many stock options they were going to get paid.
Presumably this is a one-off type of thing, and next year, it's going to be quite a bit lower, you would expect, back to some kind of more normal kind of level, and especially with the coronavirus thing in there. So, yeah, I mean, I noticed that the day after this was outed like this, that Lisa was outed, her pay, the stock took a bit of a tumble, like by a good 4% or something. It may not have been related to the fact that, how much she had gotten paid, or what her compensation was, but
a lot of the tech sector actually took a hit on that same one. Nvidia dropped almost 7.5% that day.
That same day as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not just AMD saying that their CEO made a bunch of money, and as you've seen in our conversation, it's not that they're actually giving her $53 million.
Yes, it's not the actual. She's not getting paid that in dollars. It's mostly about stock options and taking advantage of that at some point down the line.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Jim,
I mean, obviously.
Can I have a raise?
Sorry?
Can I have a raise, please?
Sorry, say again, Matthew. You broke up there.
Yeah.
Can I have a raise, please?
Can't hear you, Matthew. What are you talking about?
Check your audio. Check your audio.
Your audio, yeah.
I asked if I can have a raise.
We will talk about it in private then, yeah.
Okay.
We'll give you options. How about that?
Yeah. Oh, great.
Give some stock options in AdoredTV. Moving on swiftly then to
more
retired engineer again, who is becoming something of a regular in my videos and also in the podcast. He does an awful lot of interpreting of DigiTimes articles and other articles, obviously, from Southeast Asia. And
Jim, did you see the tweet where he was translating all like the Shark Bay and other stuff on that forum, and the people on that forum were getting mad about it?
Told them to stop doing it.
They didn't tell him, but someone said something like, "Oh, he's translating our stuff again."
Yeah,
and they got annoyed about it.
So why get annoyed? If you're going to talk about something in public, then you got to expect that that's going to get translated to people who are interested in different languages. I mean,
well, I think they like it that it's sort of like, since we don't know Chinese, it's sort of like their secret thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Google knows Chinese at least somewhat.
Yeah, exactly.
Not very well.
Yeah.
Not very well, but it at least gets
it's well enough to figure out what it's talking about in most cases. Though.
Yeah,
I mean,
if you're an informed reader like us, who are used to reading, Google translated stuff in our research, you can piece together what they're saying pretty well.
Before we get to the actual leak, I have a funny story. When I was doing a leak article for Tom's, this was when I was writing for him, so that was like a year ago. and it was a poster in Chinese, so I couldn't copy and paste the text. So there's a tool on Google Translate where you can write the characters in Chinese, and so I was doing that. And then, like, the guy that I worked with to make my articles, who edited my articles, Paul Alcorn, he told me when I was, like, through with the first sentence and writing each character very neatly, he was like, "You do realize you can just take a picture of it, right?" So I have been wasting all my time writing each individual character, and then he told me that you can just take a picture of it and it translates the entire thing.
Gotta love OCR, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that was a feature.
Yeah.
Okay, anyways, so this is a weird rumor.
This is a weird rumor.
Because Digitimes is saying that Vermeer is going to be on 5 nanometers, which we know is not true. AMD's stated multiple times at 7 nanometers.
But listen, let me stop you there, because AMD says one thing and then does another, and people just seem to forget about this an awful lot, yeah? To me, I mean, you know what they say about roadmaps being subject to change. So you can't take everything that they say as absolute gospel, because these things are subject to change. Lisa Su has proven in the past that she is not afraid of throwing in a bit of misdirection back and forward when it comes to certain statements. And I mean, she did it with the whole Intel thing. Remember the Vega graphics, the tie-in? We are not in the business of enabling our competitors. So people rubbished that rumor for ages. It was Kyle actually at Hard OCP who actually outed that one in the first place, saying Intel are going with an AMD GPU. We guarantee this is happening. And Lisa Su came out and said, no, we're not in the business of enabling our competitors. And everybody said that was a rubbish rumor, absolute garbage. And then 2 years later, it comes to fruition. And people forgot that Lisa had just said, hey, you know what? We're not in the business of enabling our competitors, apart from this one time when we are enabling Intel without telling anyone. So as far as what I'm concerned here is, do not take what AMD's roadmap say as gospel. Do not take what Lisa Su or any of them say as gospel, because things can change just like that.
Here's the thing,
Jim. Wait, hang on. Can I make this counterpoint?
Go ahead.
Sure.
AMD doesn't sandbag, Jim.
They don't sandbag.
That's what you said.
I once said that.
Okay.
You said that a lot.
Here.
We've now got this refresh thing, which I said was coming for a long time, and nobody listened to me as usual. I said, listen to me, they're going to bloody well refresh Zen 2 in the middle of next year, because EUV, 7 nanometer EUV will not be ready, and this is the way that they will do it. They'll release this refresh, and then that's exactly what it seems like what they're going to do now. But there's a missing 3950 XT, and I wonder if 3950 XT might well be 7 nanometer EUV along with Milan and and this is why we still haven't seen a 3950 XT and 7 nanometer EUV. Yeah, it's going to go to the server parts, but also perhaps a 3950 XT out of that.
That's an interesting theory, but I feel like if there's anything new about it, it'll be in the Ryzen 4000 series.
It should be in the 4000 series, shouldn't it?
Yeah. So maybe it could be exactly as you said, but it'll just have the 4950X name
instead. Yeah, it could well be that. I'm not invested in this by any means.
We're just speculating here. It's not even leaks.
Yeah, I just wondered if the mere fact there's no 3950 XT there, and we were kind of expecting perhaps. I mean, all along last year I said there's a chance that we're going to get a split here. The EUV for the servers, and then desktop stays on 7 nanometers plus or whatever it's called. It could well be happening that way. And then next year, 5 nanometer desktop parts in the middle of next year. I'm just trying to find a way to tie in all this information, so that it makes some kind of sense. So remember, dates are extremely important here. You've got to hit that 1 year cadence if you can. That's what the OEMs want. It's what system builders want. Every single year you want an upgrade on your products. And this was the way that it seems the only viable way they could do it this time along, because 7 nanometer EUV isn't ready, so they had to basically refresh Zen 2 just to get anywhere close to that 1 year cadence. This time next year, 5 nanometers should be ready to go as far as I'm concerned. Certainly it's already ready for likes of Apple and Huawei. And there's another thing, because obviously the US government had the whole thing about, what was it, they were banning new products, was it, from Huawei?
Yeah. So Huawei has to buy like a bunch of wafers in the next like 4 months.
Right. But there's only so many wafers going to be available, especially with Apple having so many of them as well.
Well, the thing is, they could buy capacity from other people and be like, hey, Huawei's going to buy your capacity. We can either pay you in cash or maybe give you capacity for a different node.
Who are they going to buy it from?
AMD. If this 5 nanometer thing is true, this is the most logical way for it to happen.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there is only 3 people on in 5 nanometers, and it's Apple, Huawei, and AMD. They're the only 3 that I've heard even close to 5 nanometers right now. So, and they're pretty sure they're not buying Apple's capacity. So if they are buying anyone, it has to be AMD's. I don't know. I mean, it's like we said, this is a weird rumor. And with everything else that's been going on this week, the 3900 XT, and then, I'm just trying to figure out how this can possibly make sense. There doesn't appear to be any sense to it.
You want to hear my theory?
Yeah, I certainly do.
Okay, so I had a small exchange with Moore's Law is Dead on Twitter about this.
Yeah.
And I said that they probably incorrectly mistook Vermeer. I know they put the date in there and they said Vermeer, but what I'm betting is that they really meant something else, like an APU. And they somehow got their code names confused, and there was like some kind of like wires cross thing, and they were like Vermeer in 2020, but what they really meant was like Cezanne or something, which I think that's the Zen 3 5 nanometer APU.
Lisa Su said at this Bernstein thing, which was 36th Annual Strategic Decisions Conference, she was quoted as saying that early on the node, it is generally mobile, followed by HPC. And we see that all the time, yeah? Apple are always first, yeah? Qualcomm and whatnot are always first to the newest node, because the chips are very small, obviously. You're talking 90, 100 square millimeter.
And Apple's willing to pay for it.
And Apple are also willing to pay for it, yeah? But then again, I mean, these 5 nanometers, we already know it's going to be a massive shrink again on 7. So, and we've talked about this before in previous podcasts, a Zen 2 chiplet on 5 nanometers is going to be crazy small, like 40 square millimeters or something like that. It's tiny. So there's nothing stopping AMD from going onto that node as quick as possible. Yield is still going to be 95% plus right now. So there's nothing stopping them from being on that 5 nanometers, as long as they've not increased the die sizes. But Lisa did say mobile is usually first, followed by HPC. But as I've just said about Lisa, she throws out a lot of misdirection. So I would take that as meaning anything. Yeah. Remember the thing that she said about? She talked about Vega. She held up Vega, Radeon. Sorry, MI60 was it during some show in the middle of 2018, and then she said 7 nanometer graphics will also be coming to. 7 nanometer gaming graphics will also be coming, and everybody thought, we're going to get Navi soon. But in the end, they ended up releasing Radeon 7 really early, 2019. She's very good at saying things, and the tech press and AMD fans are very good at reading in the wrong thing to what she says, and she does it deliberately. She's a very, very smart woman, obviously. So when Lisa says something like, they normally go mobile first on the new node, followed by HPC, I would interpret that as AMD going very early on HPC.
Yeah.
Not going on mobile. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But Vermeer, I don't think so. I don't think it could be Vermeer.
I don't think so either.
What about some kind of like custom-ish silicon? Maybe I guess semi-custom. I'm thinking like stuff like Frontier, but that's like 2021, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like 2021, 2022. I can't remember the exact year. But yeah, who knows? This is just such a weird rumor.
I mean, we're analysing this pretty heavily, and it
Yeah.
could literally have been a typo or a misunderstanding.
Well, actually, Moore's Law is Dead says it's not a typo.
Okay.
That's one thing he did say to me. That's probably not a typo. But he also says doesn't mean it's true.
Yeah.
So it could also be false. Who knows?
Yeah. And for the final one tonight, then.
One that's definitely false.
One that is absolutely false. Right, Matthew and Kirk, you can deal with this one, I think.
All right, I'm going to forward that to you, Kirk.
Oh, I have it pulled up here. So we basically saw the circulation of this, let's call it a Ryzen mobile ARM chip running around. And there's some problems with it that make us think that this is blatantly fake. The most important part, I guess, would be this Gaussian nickname, I guess you can call it, a code name for the cores. And I don't know about you, but the artist has a U in the name. So while we don't have much faith in the marketing department, we at least expect them to not have typos in their code names. And then, of course,
to be fair, it is French. It's very complicated.
Yeah, it's so hard to Google, as you saw. I mean, and then they have some weird things in here. They have these little spaces between these underscores. And why are they using underscores in marketing material anyway? RDNA space _2 mobile. I mean, give me a break, right? And
The one that stuck out to me was GPU unit, which I have never seen written ever before in my entire life. And then it was Matthew that pointed out that, wait a minute, GPU means like graphics processing unit.
Yeah, we were like a few minutes before we started the podcast, we were just like ripping this to shred over the course of like 2 to 3 minutes.
Well, they could
I was
mean
like,
the component unit kind of thing. So your GPU component, but they changed it to unit.
But all they say is GPU, but they don't have CPU unit.
Yeah, I know. It just says CPU, right?
The graphics processing unit.
So graphics processing unit, yeah.
Let's see, mobile GPU with real-time ray tracing. That's kind of weird. Like, there's no way it's fast
bolded
enough for that to make sense. It's only 4 compute units.
I mean, if it's RDNA 2, they probably felt the need to have to throw in real-time hardware ray tracing, right? Because RDNA 2. Yeah.
And also, like 700 megahertz for a mobile GPU? There's no way. No way. Never happened.
45% faster than the Adreno 650. Speaking of which, let's go and pull up the Snapdragon 865 G mobile platform here and take a look at this competitor, right? So we're looking at some of the various, let's say, buzzwords that they're putting on here. Bluetooth, you got your Qualcomm adaptive this, that, the other thing, all this Qualcomm branded stuff. And then Bluetooth version, Bluetooth 5.1. Oh, that looks strangely familiar. Oh yeah, there it is. Bluetooth version, Bluetooth 5.1. Oh, let's look at USB version. Let's see, USB version, USB 3.1, USB Type-C. You'd think maybe USB 3.2. No, 3.1. Oh, look, exactly, word for word with colon and naming. And then, look, satellite systems support. That's kind of a weird way to phrase it, right? Let's go and scroll down. Oh, let's see where to go. Oh, yeah, satellite systems support. And then verbatim, everything, exactly, word for word, copy pasted right there, including
just
all
taking
these.
off the basically the Snapdragon 865, yeah.
Yeah, it's like they went straight down. And look at this, Wi-Fi 6, Wi-Fi 6 ready? I mean, give me a break. Wi-Fi standards, and it just blew. And we go and look at Wi-Fi 6 ready, all of it, verbatim, word for word, right there, same order. Of course, it's in descending order anyway, so can give them a pass, except for this weird thing here, A, B, G, and then N. That's kind of a weird order, right? You would think that it would put the N first and then A, B, G, right? But we look at this. Oh, look, same order, exactly.
Exact same again.
Even though it should have been in descending order, they reversed it once again. So it looks like a copy. And look, even a different font to try to fit it in, right? But copy pasted. I would call this bunk. You look at the display support. That once again is in the same order it's listed here. Once I find it, yeah, here it is. So they skip over all this 60 hertz stuff, change QHD to 2K, 1440, HDR plus, and 10-bit. I mean,
Color depth.
and yeah, color depth. Same order, same highlights. It's almost copy pasted with, just some of the information distilled out. The logo here doesn't have any kind of ARM insignias or
this
anything
thing
like
here
that.
about
It
the
should say at least C7.
This AMD Ryzen logo that they put on, most people probably aren't aware of this, but obviously when you're creating content and you're using a lot of media, these companies want their logos to be shown the way that they have created them. They don't want the dimensions changed. They don't want you to change colors. They don't want you to mess around with, squashing things. But if you look at this AMD Ryzen thing in this black box, it's absolutely dreadful, yeah? There's no way that AMD marketers would make mistakes with stuff like making typos and stuff like that. We've seen them do that before. But they are actually doing this with their own branding, squashing the boxes and stuff like that. It's just, they would never do that. It's just really, really bad. Possibly the worst fake I have ever seen in my entire life. Everything about it is just so bad.
And there's also two big issues that we didn't even talk about. The fact that this is the first time we've ever heard AMD working with ARM instructions for a CPU. And then also the Samsung deal. I know Samsung can't compete with AMD. AMD probably can't compete with Samsung. This is absolutely constituting competing with Samsung.
That's a good point. Obviously, they've been working on ARM chips a long time ago, but nothing ever came from it.
Yeah. With the Samsung partnership, they're not going to label the Samsung CPU with AMD GPU as a Ryzen chip. It's going to be a Samsung chip.
Yeah,
it
will be.
They're not going to allow AMD to just take it over.
Yeah, it's the same deal as the consoles for that, I'm pretty sure.
So yeah, we slap a big fake on this one. If we turn out to be wrong, well, we'll eat our hat. But it's
if we're wrong, then this is horrible.
Yeah. And I've just this is really bad. If we got this wrong after destroying this one, we've just destroyed ourselves. In all honesty, this entire episode, though, it could be one big bad leak because we talked about the big Navi, Biostar. We're pretty confident in the Ryzen stuff, at least the 4700G, because Biostar.
The Renoir thing, the refresh thing, that's pretty. We're pretty confident on. The DG1 thing, we're also pretty confident on.
Yeah, that's got to be bad.
But if this one is wrong, it doesn't matter because this is the one that's so unlikely to be true.
Yeah. I very highly doubt that anybody believes in this one, but then again.
Well, you're gonna have to talk to.
Never know.
Like I said, everyone should have brought their salt shakers with that disclaimer at the beginning of the podcast. So.
So that's about it, I guess.
Wrapping things up, be sure to check out the PlayStation event on June 4th. Not sure what will come of that. We also know BlizzCon was delayed and other gaming news. So,
Kirk, what are you, a Sony show?
No, I just went and talked about BlizzCon, so I'm an Activision shill. Come on.
Kirk, are you drunk?
Now you're just reading too many comments there, Matthew.
I've begun to believe them myself.
No, I just have to slip in these advertisements to make sure we check off all the boxes, right?
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, wink, wink. Hey, Sony, where's the money,
I just clicked on our...
No, I actually wrote an article this week about BlizzCon, so I figured I would plug my own article. That's where my shield is coming.
And I just clicked on that article and I got an error establishing a database connection. So hopefully the website's not.
Did you break the website?
No,
I just loaded it. It's fine. It's fine.
It's okay then. Thank God. It's just me.
I have a lot of speculation in my article too, so it's a fun read.
Right, so we'll call it to an end here then.
Yep. Thank you guys for joining us. I hope you guys enjoyed the leaked information and whatnot. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. hit that bell so you can get an alert on new videos. Since it's Jim's main channel, you're probably already getting those alerts. So check out Patreon, join the Discord channel. We like to have some good chats there. What else? I think that's everything. You can check out our merchandise store. We're thinking of a few new designs to put in there. So yeah,
Every little helps.
Yep, every little bit helps. But we will see you in the next one.
Catch you later, guys.